Right, before I start, I just want to make something very clear. This is not going to be a Five Nights focused channel. Alright, I just thought I would point that out. I'm just making a couple of videos about it because, one, it's extremely easy to find information with the Five Nights wiki and everything to do with that. And two, I need to get used to speaking into my microphone for YouTube because I'm really not a good speaker. And I feel this is the best way to start and get used to my equipment, which is just a headset. But besides that, so I only plan to make this video and about 2 more before I move on to other things. Okay, so now that's out of the way, let's get to why I'm making this video, and judging by the title, it won't be a very possible one. Now, I did say in my Five Nights 3 review that I really do like the first 2 games, so please remember that while you're watching this. I don't hate the games, but there are things in it that range from making me roll my eyes to outright wanting to rip the hair out of my head. Now, the way this is going to work is that the countdown is going to be by how much these things annoy me, 7 being something that rubs me the wrong way, and 1 being something that I just can't stand at all. So that's how it's going to work. So without further ado, here are the top 7 things that I cannot stand about Five Nights at Freddy's. Not using the doors, lights or power in the later games. Now, as we all know, the doors and lights were a huge part of the first game. They were your only salvation against the animatronics, the one thing that stood between life and death. And getting them jammed or turned off was one of the worst things that could happen to you. It was a great mechanic, and it made the game so much more interesting and unique. I loved it, and so did everybody else. When the second game came out, things were a little different. The doors were taken away, which I actually thought was a good idea. It changed things up, but it made the game a bit more challenging. It wasn't a bad idea. And the torch could run out of power, but the building couldn't. Okay, that's a bit different, a bit odd, but losing power on the torch was a huge risk, so I suppose I could let that slide. But then here comes the third game. No lights, no doors, no power. Now, I remember praising the addition of a maintenance pad in the third game, but I do miss those factors. I miss having those elements. I mean, in the first game, it made it more difficult as you had to be clever about how you used them and not to be murdered by the robots, and ultimately Freddy if you mess around too much and don't pay attention. Yeah, you really need to pay attention with these games. To me, it takes away some of the elements of strategy the first game had, which I don't think is a good thing. I mean, the games are strategic, don't get me wrong, but you're put more on edge on the fact that you can't use one thing for too long without using up all the power you have. I remember the first time I played this game, I jumped out of my skin the first time I saw that. You did. Yes, I did. Anyway, it made the game more frightening for me. That one of those things was out there, and if I didn't have enough power to get me through the night, there was nothing I could do. Now, as long as you keep the mask on or you stay around the door, there isn't much risk. Unless Foxy or the puppet get you, or there's an error with a vent or something, but I'm not talking about that. So, yeah, not having the doors or lights in the later games kinda sucks. Freddys Decline of Importance. Now, this is sort of joined with the first point I made about the power. In the first game, Freddy's the one that comes to kill you if your power runs out, or in the usual manner the animatronics kill you. So there's a bigger threat. Plus his pattern is different from the others, so it's not easy to keep a track of him while watching for the others. Well, arguably not the scariest animatronic, you can't deny he is a big threat, and he's one of the things most people are afraid of. But as the second game rolls around, Freddy seems to take a back seat, and Foxy takes centre stage, being the biggest threat to your survival. Now, like I said before, power is less important, and I don't know about you, but I miss the Theodore March. I miss seeing Freddy's scary as hell face when you run out of power. Seriously, what the hell? And well, the games feel more like Five Nights at Foxy's rather than Freddy's, since Freddy's not the main character here. And I can't say anything better for the third game because Freddy's barely in it. He's reduced to this stupid little jump scare, which is not scary, may I add, and it's about Springtrap. All this just rubs me up the wrong way. It's Five Nights at Freddy's, not Five Nights at Insert Name Here. What's next? Five Nights at Rumblefish, where I'm the main antagonist, and I come in reciting Rabbi Burns while playing the bagpipes and tossing iron brew cans at you when the power runs out? Actually, that'd be pretty funny. Anyway, if Freddy is not given centre stage in the upcoming game, I will not be happy. God, we're only 2 entries in and already I'm annoyed. Balloon Boy. I hate this wee shite. So does everybody. Moving on! The redundancy. Now, I know I probably sound very petty by saying this, but one of the biggest faults with the game, with all the games, is the redundancy. Sure, the games are difficult to get used to, but once you figure out a strategy, you're pretty much guaranteed to win. I mean, there are walkthroughs everywhere on the internet, and you can simply look one up and boom, you're set. It's not like at the beginning when we had to do it by our own wits and skills. Once you get the pattern, it becomes boring. Sure, there are things to throw you off in the later games, but again, same deal. I can't say much more that it's redundant to be redundant, so you try not to be redundant. Redundant. The supernatural element. But Rumble, didn't you press the button? Yes, I did, but I didn't talk about the supernatural stuff, which really doesn't sit well with me. It's not bad, it's just not something I like. Now, to explain this correctly, let me take you back to the far land of last August, when you played this game for the very first time. The only information you had was that these animatronics were more likely malfunctioning, thinking you were an endoskeleton and that they would kill you. They couldn't think, they couldn't feel, they couldn't have any emotion or motivation, they were just machines, malfunctioning machines, and doing what they were programmed to do. It was never malicious, but it still frightened you that you couldn't do anything about it, for if they saw you, you're dead. They haven't been fixed in over 20 years, they were old and worn out from use. They're not living, breathing things with a conscience that you could change the mind of. They do what they're supposed to do, and there's nothing you could do about it. At least that's what we thought. But no! They happen to be possessed by murdered children, and it's them that's controlling the animatronics. Damn it! I mean, the first time I saw those newspaper clippings, I thought it was just for scares. It's like murdered kids, stuffed into suits. It was scary and disturbing, and it made that game a wee bit more edgy and dark. But then the theories come up, and it's practically been admitted by the third game that's exactly what happened. Now, if you like that kind of story, then I've got nothing against you, and I will admit it is well done. But I found the game more frightening when it was the animatronics in a child-friendly restaurant and they were going around trying to kill you. Not because they were possessed, but because they weren't working correctly. Not because they were malicious, they were just malfunctioning and you couldn't stop them. And the thought of any kids that have gone left behind by accident or any employees would suffer the same fate as you. And you're the only person to let this happen and get it alive. I've never been much of a fan of things being possessed as a plot point. I mean, it feels like it's been done way too much. I tried to imagine the supernatural stuff doesn't exist and it's just malfunctioning robots. But there's so many theories and Scott's pretty much admitted it that I can't avoid it. Thankfully it doesn't bother me enough to completely ruin the game. I just don't like it. Also, while I'm on the subject, I think the games have changed way too much. How the hell did we get from animatronics to entertain kids from Chucky the Cheese or whatever to these freaky bastards here? It's too different for me and it's unlikely that I'll play it. I'll watch someone else play it and I'll have a go myself. Anyway, I would like the story to be different and not have those elements, but I can't do anything about it. I'm kind of 3 games too late